for those of you who don't know, Veganuary, the charity, was born in 2014, was our first Veganuary campaign. We were inspired by the Movember campaign. So if you're familiar with Movember, it's where you grow a moustache for the month of November and you raise money for prostate cancer. It's been incredibly successful. It started off in Australia, they've gone global, and we thought, wow, that is a great way of spreading a message. And we were just two vegans doing what we could for animals, but we thought this way we can help so many more by encouraging people to try vegan for a month. So there it was a cool challenge, and we thought, well, what better month to try and give it a go than January? You know, New Year's resolutions, people detoxing, want to feel better about themselves and what they're contributing to society. So
yeah, and then we felt that the best thing people can do for animals is go vegan. So Vegan January, merge it together. It sounds really corny, but Veganuary.
And you don't have to grow a moustache. Yeah. So we've had over 90,000 people take part so far. This year's been our biggest yet, 52,000 people. It's still time to sign up, by the way. Have we got any Veganuary participants in the room? Woohoo! Anybody who's just already vegan? Excellent. And
any pre-gans? Any non-vegans, basically?
Sorry, you can...
Yeah. It's all right, you can admit it. Yeah, right. No, good. Well, you're our favourites because basically there's an opportunity for you guys to make a massive difference in the world by sort of getting on board.
Doing this stuff.
So you're very welcome here.
So you can still sign up at veganuary.com/register today. The site is available all year round. We just have a recruitment drive in January, but the pledge is available to sign up at any point, and all our resources will continue to be free and accessible by all, because it's just about providing that practical support for people to make it as easy and enjoyable to try vegan as possible. There are lots of fantastic animal protection groups running in the UK, but what we specialise in is this practical support. So we know that from our survey results that people do struggle with health and nutrition, they struggle with eating out. Number 2 of the biggest challenges was cheese. So we are dealing with cheese specifically in a talk tomorrow, but again, we can chat about that later as well if it's an issue for people in the room. And today we're going to focus on the health and nutrition aspect to it. So these surveys at the end of January, so if you have signed up and you're doing Veganuary, we'd really appreciate if you fill it in at the end of January and just let us know how you've got on for the month.
Even if it's bad. We want bad news as well as good news.
We want all feedback because that's how we improve and get the resources that you need. So last year, eating out was number 1, followed by cheese. So we've done more cheesy videos, literally quite cheesy videos, to encourage alternatives. And we also engaged with more chain restaurants. So we are running offers with Zizzi's, Las Iguanas, and Handmade Burger Company this year. So they've all got the 50% off at Handmade Burger Company on all their vegan burgers. That's 4 vegan burgers on their menu and their sides. Las Iguanas, it's 2 for 1. Thursday to Sunday. No, sorry, Sunday to Thursday. And the same with Zizzi's.
Las Iguanas does 2 for 1 on cocktails as well. So.
Another reason to go visit them. So also, we asked people at the end of January, how are you feeling? Do you feel any better? 75% of the survey respondents said, yes, we've definitely seen an improvement in our health. 25%.
There's only about 2% of people that take part actually report feeling worse as well, so it's heavily in favour of, taking part makes people feel great.
Yeah, and I think, those 2%, are they listening to the advice that we're giving them? We do start off the month with all our health and nutrition information because we do think it's important just to get that, all the vitamins and minerals that you need, which is quite easy to get on a vegan diet, but unless you're eating just chips and Coke, then yeah, you are going to struggle and not feel great. So maybe that's what the 2% are doing. Yeah. So veganism can be the healthiest diet, and there's certainly a lot of scientific research and evidence-based nutrition to support that. Out of interest, has anybody heard of Kwashiorkor? Kwashiorkor. No, it's a scientific name for a protein deficiency. So when people say, where do you get your protein? We don't tend to suffer from protein deficiency in this country. What you probably have heard of is heart disease, obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, certain types of cancers. So what we're suffering from in this country is diseases of excess, not deficiency. Garth Davis, I don't want to move that book, but he's done a book called Proteinaholic, and he talks about those issues in there. He was a bariatric surgeon, so he was treating people who were coming to his office were suffering from obesity-related disorders, and he was doing surgery on them. He said, that was it, I thought I was fixing them, I was doing the surgery for them, sending them away, and then he was seeing them back in his office 2 to 3 years later. And he himself, in his early 40s, was suffering from high blood pressure, not feeling great, and he just thought, I don't understand it, you know, I'm a doctor, I'm supposed to be fixing people, but as a lot of you probably know that doctors don't get, if any, nutritional information as they're doing their studies. So he looked into it himself and discovered that a plant-based diet, a vegan way of eating, was a lot more helpful for him. Changed his diet, he's since been thriving, and he's encouraging his patients to do the same. So it's worth mentioning this book to anybody who does talk about, but where do you get your protein?
And I think also one of the countries most obsessed with getting protein is the US, and it's really not working out for them. Look at the health of the people there. So those diseases linked to excessive consumption of unhealthy foods, including animal products and overly processed foods. As this happens, more and more research is emerging on how plant-based eating, along with a more active lifestyle, can help to combat some of these issues. It was only recently, 2015 in fact, that the World Health Organization officially announced that processed meats were classified carcinogenic. So they are in the same category as smoking and as asbestos, and red meat is in the same category as a probable cause of cancer. And white meat doesn't fare much better. In fact, 75% of chicken found to be contaminated with Campylobacter, a cause of food poisoning. A factory farmed chicken has more than 3 times the fat and 1/3 less protein than it did 40 years ago, because of the way that we're intensively farming chickens. Has anybody seen any of the footage of inside the chicken farms? And you will see that the chickens can barely hold themselves up in their legs because they're bred to be growing so quickly than their bodies can handle, so they're crippled under their own weight because of what we're doing to them. If that's not incentive enough, then half the antibiotics are used on farm animals in this country. If you're more unfortunate and you live in the US, that's 80% of antibiotics are used on farm animals. But now, for the good news, the benefits of just eating plants. So we've read extensively on the subject of evidence-based nutrition, and we can highly recommend these resources. So Proteinaholic, which I've already mentioned to you, and Garth Davis. 2 documentaries, Forks Over Knives and Food Choices, which is the recent one that's been brought out. There will be another one coming out next year by the same producers of Cowspiracy called What the Health. I imagine that's going to have as much success as Cowspiracy did for them. Joel Fuhrman, the Eat to Live book. Again, I read that a couple of years ago, and I've passed that on to a few people, particularly who are struggling with weight issues. He recommends G-bombs. If you've ever seen him, he always goes, oh, G-bombs, you need to get your G-bombs, which is greens and beans and onions and mushrooms and berries and seeds. And he talks about getting all those in during your day. So it's something that it's an easy one to stick in your mind. Oh, how am I getting my G-bombs today? Neil Barnes. In terms of the forks over knives thing, it's funny because people are finding it on Netflix. I had one of my friends who I've been for 6 years. He's been following me on Facebook. I'm always talking about veganism, as we do, and he just sent me a message. Matthew, have you heard of Forks Over Knives? I'm like, yeah. I've just watched it. I think you're right, you know. But I'm going vegan, and it's like Jesus, you know. But it's a really great movie to always advocate and send people that way, because I think it's on Netflix. Yeah. Yeah, and Food Choices is on Netflix as well. There's a few of them, isn't there?
Yeah, Food Matters is the one that I've seen as well. Yeah. Fat sick, nearly dead. Yeah. I think that's more to do with juicing, isn't it?
Cowspiracy's on there as well, which is obviously the environmental side of things. So yeah.
The other health one is Vegucated, that follows the lives of 3 people who, they do their bloods and everything at the start of the month, don't they? And then they track them as they go through. And it's great. It's something that, as Matthew's saying, you know, you probably found it where you're trying to talk to your friends and family and they just switch off and they're not listening, they don't want to know. But something like this, when they discover it themselves, or when they take the private moment to think about it, and then they go, oh, well, if it's their idea, of course it's going to stick with them more, and they're more likely to agree with it.
And the Cowspiracy guys are doing a film at the minute called What the Health, which will be coming out as well. And if it's anything like Cowspiracy, that'll be a big hitter as well.
So our health and nutrition information, we've had the support of 2 vegan doctors, well, a vegan doctor in the UK and a vegan dietitian in the US help us compile it. And we've also had support from Dr. Grieger, so we've had his book, How Not to Diet, starts off by looking at various different conditions, sort of cancers and diabetes. So somebody was talking about curing and reversing diabetes with a plant-based diet, and he talks about this specifically in this book. It's the latter part of the book that we've mainly used for the website, and he includes a daily dozen, so what he recommends to eat during the month. So we've taken what he said and we've produced these. They are available if you want to suggest them to anybody else on our vegan starter kit. So it's a vegan starter kit. Scroll down what to eat, and you can download these for free and print them off, or share them with somebody else if you think it's going to be beneficial for them. So I just want to kind of go through now with you what he recommends. So it might sound like a lot of beans, but he's recommending 3 portions of beans. But one of those could be a big dollop of hummus. That could be 1 portion of your beans with your chickpeas. I was saying earlier about how to getting some protein-rich sources to your diet, so you should be including a good source of protein in every meal. Beans could be that protein source. So Dr. Grieger loves the beans, and so does Joel Fuhrman. He's talking about the beans as the second one in his G-bombs. I tend to also stick them, if I'm in a rush and I'm doing a smoothie, I will stick a good 2 tablespoons in a smoothie of haricot beans, so they're like the baked beans but just without all the tomato sauce on, in our smoothie. Matthew doesn't even know that he's eating it. And just have to make him healthy by default. So you could get a portion of beans like that. If you're doing a chili, you can easily put 3 different types of beans in a chili. I do my shepherd's pie and my lasagna. I tend to use lentils for those now. I know people transitioning tend to use like the veggie minces, which is the soya, but I think we've kind of moved on to more just whole food plant-based, I think, which is a healthier variety than doing that, but not dissing those products. Say I've used them and I still use them for a real rush, but I would say the healthier option would be to go for the whole foods. So falafel again, so falafel and hummus, there you go, you've got 2 portions already there. Tofu, of course. And then they're also really rich, not only in protein, but in also iron. Beans are really good for your iron. If you're eating, if you want to increase your absorption of iron, you might have already heard that it's good to eat it with vitamin C, a source of vitamin C as well, just helps that absorption process. Berries then, a portion of berries. Berries are the healthiest fruit, and greens are the healthiest vegetables. So I would encourage you, if you can't think of manage the rest, at least get those in every day. So berries, you could stick them in a smoothie in the morning, or we tend to eat them on top of our cereal and porridge as well. I know that they're out of season at the moment, so you can get them frozen as well. We've got a stash in of frozen ones, and they're easy. They defrost in minutes, and you can put them in a smoothie frozen. Other fruits. Again, we tend to use fruits for snacking on, so bananas, tangerines, apples are great, even dates. Figs are a great source of calcium, by the way, if you like nibbling on figs. I think they're my go-to sweet treat. So I know I'm conscious that I try and keep my sugar intake down. It doesn't always work very well. I say my vice is sugar. Matthew's vice used to be alcohol, didn't it? And I couldn't understand. I was going,
tell everybody that.
He was going, oh, there's some seats at the front. Anybody wants to come and sit down? So he said, I go, I can't understand that why you feel the need to drink so much. I really am painting a bad picture of you, aren't I? And he said, well, we'll switch it around. It's how you feel about sugar. And I went, oh yeah. So But I do really believe that your taste buds do adapt and they do change. So now a date and a fig does taste incredibly sweet to me, whereas I certainly haven't any soft drinks, but I don't anything else like a proper cake would taste really quite sugary. So your taste buds do change.
I still prefer Vigo bars, to be honest.
Anybody hasn't tried Vigo bars, or if you're new to veganism, it's probably the chocolate of choice. They do it's a milk chocolate, soya milk they use in there, and it's got hazelnuts in, and it's just as I remember Cadbury's whole nut to be. It's just delicious. Cruciferous vegetables, one of those a day. So your broccoli or your cauliflower, kale, rocket. I mean, rocket goes on everything. Even if Matthew Will says, "Oh, I want a fry up breakfast this morning," so he's have his sausages and his beans and his mushrooms. I'll say, "Right, we've got to have some rocket on it." And I chuck some rocket, or you can also do some spinach, wilted spinach on the side. As a general rule of thumb as well, the darker the colour of the fruit and the vegetables, the more antioxidants it's got in it. So always go for the red onion instead of the white, the red cabbage instead of the green cabbage, the red grapes instead of the green grapes, and same with apples, choose the red over the green. They've got more nutrients in them. The only way it doesn't work is for cauliflower and mushrooms. They may be white, but they are still top veg, okay? Everything else, go for the darker variety. Other vegetables, doing 2 a day, that is, we have far more than that, and I'm sure most of the vegans in the room will agree that 5 a day for us it's more like 8 or 10 that you have. You're generally, because you're crowding out the meat that was once on your plate and more fruit and vegetables. And what doctor in the land doesn't tell you that you need more fruit and vegetables in your diet. Flaxseed might be new to some people. I think they started selling it in some of the major supermarkets now, but Holland and Barrett do it, and most health food stores sell it. Really good source for your omega-3, and it does encourage you to have that every day. So whether it's in a smoothie, on top of your cereal in the morning, I don't think it's really got much of a flavour. So I don't even notice I'm eating it. Mine has got Brazils and almonds in it as well. So Brazils are a good source of selenium.
Are you using the ground stuff or the whole thing?
I'm using ground.
Right.
Yeah.
My porridge and my overnight oats.
Oh yeah.
With the
Chia seeds. Chia seeds are a great source of omega-3, and a great top tip as well for breakfast. If you are in a rush in the breakfast, you do your overnight oats. Do you leave it in the fridge?
Yeah, in the fridge overnight with my frozen berries, and then I pick it up.
Yeah, I prefer it. Yeah, heated up in the morning, but it's a good go on the go breakfast option. Just to say as well, I mentioned about the whole foods rather than the more processed foods. So if you are, choosing, say, tomatoes for the whole, or even the crushed or the chopped, rather than ketchup or tomato puree or the sauce, in its whole form, the better it is for you. Top cancer-fighting foods, according to Michael Grieger, are cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, spring onion, leek, mushrooms, and the top on this test that we were doing on dropping these onto cancer cells was garlic. So let's all just stink of garlic because it's really, really good for you. Also try and avoid deep fried foods. It's been associated with higher cancer risks, produces acrylamide on food as well. I know it's probably not what you want to hear, but it's not the best thing to be eating. I know that we still do it sometimes, but I'm saying this is what he advises. Nuts and seeds. Say almonds are great for calcium. Tahini with the sesame seeds. Pumpkin seeds are great for iron. Of course, you've got your peanut, you've got your nut butters. Again, they did a similar sort of test with nuts about which are the most healthful nuts for you, and walnuts won out. So it's probably not one that I tend to, although I am trying to get in the habit of just snacking on walnuts, I tend to usually prefer them covered in chocolate. So if I'm going to try and increase walnuts in my diet, I tend to put them in sort of like a veggie loaf or a stuffed mushroom or something like that. Again, the omega-3, so flaxseed, chia seeds and walnuts are all good for your omega-3. Spices, you might have seen, there's been a lot of hype around turmeric recently, and turmeric products have been hitting the market all over the place. So he does recommend having some turmeric. They've got lots of recipes on Veganuary.com which she uses it. Clea does a lovely roast cauliflower where she puts turmeric on. You can actually buy it in capsule forms as a supplement. There's factors that he talks about in there about you need to be having some black pepper with it. So you'll find a lot of the supplements include black pepper, and it's better absorbed with that, and a source of fat as well, rather than just taking it, because it's not gonna get absorbed if you're just taking ordinary turmeric. Whole grains, he recommends 3 lots of whole grains. So again, I think it's straight in the morning. If you have your porridge, you have your oats there's one ticked off. Or quinoa, some people have quinoa porridge. Quinoa is also a fantastic source of protein. It might be new to you if you've not been for vegan very long. It seems to be one of those foods that I'd never heard of before. I was like, what, quinoa? No. And so I said, I think you'll find that's quinoa. Oh, okay, yeah, so it's quinoa. Really rich source of protein. And you can find it a lot in the supermarkets now. You can find it in the packet, so you cook it. It takes about 20 minutes to cook, or the lazy version, you can find it pre-packet and already done. So in a rush, those lazy moments, you can stick it in a stir fry or have it as a base for a curry instead of rice. Some other options on there. And then drinks, you're saying that we should have at least 5 a day. Water would be a good go-to, obviously, or can be quite dehydrated otherwise. He ranks the teas. Green tea is obviously quite at the top, along with white tea. He also likes hibiscus. If anybody follows Dr. Grieger, he's always talking about his hibiscus tea and his hibiscus punch that he does with the recipe in the Daily Dozen as well.
What if you don't drink much alcohol? It's really bad for you.
So that was just to show you where this is accessible. So if you want to point any of your friends or family in the direction of it, it's what to eat and how often is what it's called. So you can download it online for free as well. It's all in the vegan starter kit. We include in there some nutrition in a nutshell, and then we've also got a more detailed health and nutrition section. It's what we start off the month with. Like I said, we want people to be...
Can you just define the one portion?
Yeah. Sorry. So again, that's on the website. Sorry, I forgot to mention that. Thank you for raising it. Yeah. So if you go on to this, there'll be a write-up. So like one portion is 60 grams of hummus or 130 grams of beans, which is about a third of a tin. Sorry, that information is on the website. Yeah. So at the end of his book, he also talks about his recommendations for any supplements that he feels that vegans could benefit from. And one of those, as you might have guessed, is B12. So you can get it in fortified food sources, at least 2 times a day. So Marmite, as the picture suggests, it's in Marmite. It's in nutritional yeast. If you've not discovered nutritional yeast yet.
Apparently it's not in Vegemite, B12.
Is it not? Right, so it's in Marmite. Nutritional yeast, you have to make sure you get the fortified version, and also if you don't heat it up. So if you're sprinkling nutritional yeast on, that is the way to get the B12. If you heat it up, apparently it evaporates or whatever it does. And the plant milks, it's in plant milks and in cereals. I do take a supplement. He recommends this type of supplement and that many micrograms. Another one that he talks about is vitamin D. So sadly, this is what we have to deal with in the UK during winter time, so we're not getting enough vitamin D from the sun during the winter months. In the summer, he recommends you go out 15 minutes, bare forearms, exposed face, no sunblock, will help get your recommended allowance of vitamin D. If you're Caucasian, if you have got darker skin, you're going to need to be exposed for a little bit longer. So if it's not possible, he does recommend a supplement. So 1,000, 2,000 international units can be a good idea, and I do, and you do too, but you probably don't know about it, take vitamin D.
Do I?
Yeah. I do. He's just so trusting. I just comes in the kitchen and I just pop things in his mouth and say, all right, take that.
This one.
Just trying to keep you healthy. Another one that he mentions is iodine. So recommended daily intake is 150 micrograms. I mean, we had that last night. We went out and we had sushi. So the nori wraps, they're a good source of iodine. So your dark green leafy sea vegetables. I encourage you to experiment with ways to include them in your diet. So you can also have seaweed sprinkled. So I use dulse as well, because I'm not a big fan of the sea vegetables. I know that they're really good for you and they're a good source of calcium and iodine. That fishy taste I just don't really like it. So the dulse one, I just sprinkle it down and sort of, it's a quick and natural way of seaweed, of getting it in your diet. Or you can just, I mean, I know that the Vegan Society do a supplement, the Veg One, and they include iodine in that one. So you could get it that way, but there is lots of natural ways of getting iodine as well. I mean, fortunately with B12, the natural way that we would have got it, the microbes that used to blanket the earth and filter into our water system, we don't get that now because it's chlorinated water. So we also don't get cholera, which is a good thing, but we're not getting the B12 that way. So, and then lastly, he does talk a bit about omega-3s. So I've said those food sources, the flax seeds, the chia seeds and the walnuts, two credible authorities, World Health Organization and the European Food Authority, said you should get at least 0.5% of your calories from the short-chain omega-3 ALA in your food sources, so the ones that I've just mentioned. Your body can then take these short-chain omega-3s and elongate them into the long-chain ones, the EPA and the DHA, which is found in fish fat. So what we're doing is we're going to the source, we're just cutting out the fish. The question, however, is whether a body can make enough for an optimum health. Until we know more, Dr. Grieger recommends taking a 250 milligram of a pollutant-free long-chain omega-3 directly. So I take one of those a couple of times a week as well. I mean, we attended, I don't know if anybody went to Vevolution this year, a great vegan festival that was happening in London, and a guy came up and talked, and he'd been vegan for 30 years. And I'm guessing he'd not been taking these, but he said he went and had his blood done, and he said everything was fine, his iron and his B12 and all that was great. He went, I just said I was a little low on omega-3, and that was it. But so it's even for somebody who's been a vegan a long time as him, and he didn't have an issue with it, but he's just saying, well, why not take the risk just yet? Until we know more information, that is what he's recommending.
The Veg One supplement, sorry if I'm asking a question now. Is that enough to cover all of these different...
It's got vitamin D and it's got iodine and it's got B12. It doesn't have omega-3 in it. Yeah. Okay. So I'm conscious there's a lot of information to take in all at once. I say all of it is on our website as well, but I thought we would use the rest of this chance to just have a bit of a chat, and anybody who's got specific questions about it. I'll do my best to answer. I say I'm taking this knowledge from other people to share it with you. I'm not a registered dietitian.
What's it with vegan wine? Because I thought wine was fruit and sugar. Or with vegan alcohol? What's in non-vegan alcohol that's the problem?
So this, you are best to answer this.
So my understanding is that there's isinglass in some wines, well most wines, which is fish bladder. Mm-hmm. So there's something to do with the fining, the filtration process. So really, actually it's not really suitable for vegetarians, a lot of the wines that are available. But then there's others that have got egg in and milk. I'm not somebody that I've drunk quite a lot of wine. I've never made it, so does anybody know, do you want to answer?
Well, I know that as far as the beer goes anyway, anything that's produced in Germany is fine, because they actually have very strict regulations with regards to that stuff.
I think that's the same with wine as well in Germany as well.
I don't know how great German wine is.
No.
So you have to make sure it's made in Germany rather than it just being like a German brand, like Heineken or whatever.
Yeah.
That could obviously be made in the UK or something.
Okay, right, okay, that's
If
interesting.
it's made in Germany, then you could.
There is a website, it's US based, but it's called Barnivore, and you can do a search on there for a particular wine to find out whether it is vegan or not. Some supermarkets...
Sainsbury's are labelled, they have the vegan branding on all their wines. Waitrose are also very good. They had a book when I last went. I was trying to find some vegan wine. Is it the big company that sells it on mass? Majestics, is it?
Majestic, yeah.
Yeah, I searched on their website, you can find vegan wine. And somebody else mentioned on Facebook, again, another big chain that also is improving. At that point, actually, I should mention that we've got a great Facebook group, over 7,500 people on there. So it's Facebook.com/groups/Veganuary. So we've got lots of really helpful vegans on there because we are a small team. There's only 3 of us, and we realise that the 7,000 people, they've got a lot of questions. So if you have got something like that, does anybody recommend wine? Then we're not specialists in that area. It's a good forum to ask, and it's a really supportive and friendly space. No one's going to be an arsehole to you. We make sure of that.
I found with the beers that if you email the company the bottles that they sell in the supermarkets, and most beers are vegan, but
Yeah.
if you get them on tap,
Yes.
They're not.
So
Yeah.
Black Sheep, I think we watch the Black Sheep
Yeah,
beer.
so we.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Black Sheep in the
Black
bottles
Sheep's
is
all right.
always vegan, but
Yeah.
when you get on tap, it's not. So you
Yeah.
just have to get it.
I think Guinness has gone vegan recently, haven't they? So it's getting there. Brass Castle, who were downstairs, they're a Yorkshire brewery as well. They're totally vegan. With the handful stuff as well. There is I don't know. There is a sort of a debate within the vegan movement as to if you're out with friends and you're ordering wine, do you make a fuss about whether it's vegan or not? And I guess I would recommend people make their own choice on that. I personally, in fact, I haven't drunk any alcohol for 50 days now, so I'm on a no drinking thing. But prior to that, I would never really cause a fuss. I would give it the benefit of the doubt because I just think that you're representing veganism to your friends. It's difficult enough with the food side of it. If you're then asking a waiter, is this wine vegan or not? The likelihood is they're not going to know, and it just makes it look really more difficult than it is to be vegan. So that's my personal choice. Everybody can make their own decision on that.
There's no mention of bread on this list. I take it's whole grains.
Whole grains bread. He does write quite a lot on bread, and he talks about some maths, and I didn't really want to complicate the issue, but it seems you brought it up. So he talks about the ratio between the carbohydrate and the fibre level in bread. So again, it's not a whole food, is it? So he's saying that he said the closer it is, so the higher the fibre and the lower the carbohydrate, the better the bread is. And he recommended some brands, but they were all American brands. So I'm guessing the thing is, yeah, I mean, I still do have bread, but I always make sure that it's wholemeal bread. But he's saying it's not a particular health food, really.
Do you do any events during the year?
Yeah, we tend to do London Vegfest. It's another big event. For us, I say the recruitment drive is obviously gearing up towards January from November onwards, from October really onwards. So we don't tend to do that much visit between the year from February to from the summer. And we might actually be venturing out away from the Vegfest to more sort of left-leaning festivals, like the Prides and the Socialists and the Marxism conferences, because you find that, obviously people who are supporting oppressions of different areas might then be more open to considering giving Veganuary a try, because we realise that a lot of the time we're here, we're preaching to the converted already. So yes, we tend to do some of the big ones, but not as many. We're trying to venture out to other places.
It's not so much a question, going back to the books. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there's a great book by Jonathan Safran Foer called
Yeah.
That made you vegetarian, didn't it?
I was reading it, I was transitioning to veganism, and there was a passage in it, to bum everybody out, but there was a passage in it where he's talking about cows going down, I'm not going to try, a cow was going down the slaughter line, and I can't remember the percentage, but a certain amount of dairy cows are actually pregnant when they go to slaughter. And they were going down the slaughter line, and one of them a calf was kicking to get out of his mum while she was going down the slaughter and having a throat slit. And it was that image there of that calf trying to get out of his mother who was being killed. I was just sobbing and sobbing. And my mum came in the room and she was looking at me reading the book, and she's going, I'm going to take that off you now. I was going, no, I need to know what happens. So it's a very, very powerful book.
So that's it, great. I hope we've been all right. I mean, we're effectively animal activists, not nutrition experts. Jane's read and you've done an e-Cornell course on nutrition. And one of the things about when you go vegan, you have to become a nutrition expert because everybody's asking you about it all the time, which they never used to before. So I hope it's been of use. So thank you all for coming. Cheers.
Thank you.